Money, power, respect that you need in life. Unfortunately, with that comes, the Reaper comes to collect. Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie T. Welcome to the 85th installment of the LouieTeeNetwork podcast. I, of course, am your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Man, a lot of money. It's raining money. Hallelujah, it's raining money. Amen. Everybody's getting paid. But it's a lot of good players getting what they deserve. Unfortunately, with that money comes power. With that power comes respect. Also, the Reaper comes to collect. We're going to talk about another catastrophic injury before the start of the 2020 NFL season. We see this every year. It's no different. The Reaper is doing what he does best and just creating havoc around the league. So we'll talk about the latest guy to fall victim and prey to the Reaper in a little bit later down the line in the show. A lot of money being handed out. The latest deal now, Jaylen Ramsey getting paid. But before we get to all of the people that have gotten their bread or have gotten it recently, let's talk about a guy that we talked about on the show last week, which leads us straight into our Gem Droppin Session for the day. Let me drop this gem on your melon. Open your mind, let your conscience be free. You're now rolling with your man, Louie T. Double E. Let me open you up, get you thinking a little bit. So we talked Jadeveon Clowney on the show last week, and I said, look, he's got to sign somewhere. We're getting pretty close to the start of the season. It's about that time, and he played this perfectly. I will say this. Now, there were rumors coming out that he wasn't answering the phone, and people couldn't get in contact with him. For whatever the case may be, he ended up firing his agent again, and as soon as he fired his agent, a deal got done. Now, I don't know if there was anything kind of linking, the agent to him getting a deal done, and if there was any validity to the agent being the issue there or whatever the case may be. But a deal got done not too far after his agent was fired. But that's nor here nor there. Jadeveon Clowney probably wanted no parts of training camp. So he did not sign a deal until after training camp, and it makes a lot of sense if he kept himself in shape. He played it perfectly because he turned it into a bit of a bidding war. Now, the funny part about this is he didn't want a franchise tag because he wanted to test the market and see what he could get out on the free market. And so he went to free agency, and what he essentially did was he signed what amounts to a franchise tag. Okay, probably even a little bit less than what he would have gotten on another franchise tag. But again, he turned it into a bit of a bidding war between the Saints and the Titans. And the Saints made a hard charge, and they actually tried to get creative. Check this out. I don't know if I've ever heard this. This is some NBA type stuff. So the Saints, and when I was listening to Ian Rappaport, describe this and explain it, he kind of talked about this having, almost happened before. I don't recall this, where a team has another team sign a player, pay them a bonus, and then trade them to the team that ultimately wants this deal to get done. So the Saints essentially tried to elicit the help of the Cleveland Browns, reportedly the Browns. It was another team, but everyone's suspecting that it was the Browns. And they picked up the phone, called up the Browns, said, hey, look, we want Jadeveon Clowney, but we can't afford to pay him all the money that he's looking for. So here's what we want you to do. We want you to sign him because you got a lot of extra bread sitting around. We don't. Pay him $5 million in a signing bonus. Then trade him to us. We'll slide you a player and a second-round draft pick, and we'll pick up his full salary for the remainder of the season. And so they tried to get the Browns involved, but ultimately the Titans swooped in, up their ante a bit. They went from $12 million to $13 million base salary. He can make upwards of $15 million on a one-year deal. So Clowney made out like a bandit. Good for him, and I think it helps the Tennessee Titans immensely. People always talk about Jadeveon Clowney. He's overrated. He doesn't provide sacks. If you're just looking at the stats category, then you're not going to understand the true value of a Jadeveon Clowney, because he brings so much more to the table. He's a disruptor. That's, to me, what he is at his core. He's a disruptor. He just disrupts whatever the offense is trying to do. And it doesn't always amount to sacks, but he does mess up the run game. He does blow things up in the backfield. He does speed up your quarterback's process. He gets his hands on footballs. He picks passes off. He bats them in the air. He does a lot of things that impact the game. He makes guys around him better. So I think there is value in Jadeveon Clowney, and the Titans could definitely use a boost on the defensive side of the football, because I can tell you this much: Vic Beasley is certainly not it. So this is a big move for a team that made it all the way to the AFC Championship game last year. And the Titans quietly have went about their business yeoman-like this offseason. Not a lot of fanfare, not a lot of hype surrounding the Titans. And I think a lot of it is because people don't buy the hype of the Titans. And we're going to talk about all of the teams in the league this today on the podcast. Not on this episode, though. I'm going to do another episode, because I need to catch up, essentially. Okay, I was supposed to do this episode on Monday, but Monday was a holiday. I wasn't even home, so I'm doing this episode. Then we're gonna follow this up with another episode 86. In 86, we're going to break down every single division. I'm going to give you my records for each team in every division and how I think those divisions are going to shake out. And I'm telling you right now, the Titans, to me, are sitting pretty. Now, this is the only thing I'm not buying. I can't speak for anybody else out there. The only thing that I'm not buying out there is I don't know if Ryan Tannehill can do what he did again last year. That's the thing that I'm kind of going back and forth on. Is this for real, or is Ryan Tannehill actually figuring it out? Has he figured it out? Has the light bulb come on for him, and now he's actually a quality NFL quarterback? Or was last year lightning in the bottle, and he's going to go back to the Ryan Tannehill of old that has his good games and his bad games? And the Titans just need steady Ryan Tannehill. If they can run it like they did last year, if the defense can be solid like it was last year, they could be a formidable team if Ryan Tannehill is able to be what he was for them last year. I just don't know if he can do that. But getting Jadeveon Clowney makes a massive difference. And I think it's something that the Titans thought all along could really help propel them to the next level. Clowney's a major force in this league. I know a lot of people like to look at the sack numbers. He's never had double-digit sack season in his career, and everybody likes to point to that. I just talk about this guy being a disruptor. And I always go back to last year, Monday night game on the road versus San Francisco. 49ers were undefeated, and Clowney wrecked shop. Helped them take that game to overtime, but they should have won in regulation. They tried to blow it late in regulation, did the Seahawks. But Clowney was magnificent in that game. He's a one-man wrecking crew is what he was. And he essentially derailed the 49ers' bid to stay undefeated in that football game as the Seahawks went on the road and beat the 49ers. And Clowney, to me, was the driving force behind that win. He was dominant in that game. He wasn't good. He wasn't solid. He was dominant in that game. And that's what you get when you get a guy like Jadeveon Clowney on your football team, is you get a guy that can be a difference maker in any given week. He can wreck shop and change the game. He's a true game changer in this league along the defensive line. And Titans got themselves a hell of a football player. It was just odd how this whole situation played out, because he waited so long to sign. And again, I think he didn't want to be in camp. You know, a lot of these guys, what it all boils down to is they don't want any parts of training camp. If they can train their body outside of an NFL, facility, stay away from practice and contact. These guys are veterans. They know how the game goes. It's not hard to pick up a defense, especially if you're on the defensive side of football. On offense, it might be a little bit tougher. But I can tell you this much. This guy is going to be really good for the Titans. I'm looking forward to seeing how it goes. And it's a really, really big pickup for the Tennessee Titans. So with that being said, let's get to In Case You Missed It. And we got a lot to talk about on In Case You Missed It, man. A lot of things have transpired since the last time we have spoken, man. A lot of money handed out. More guys deciding to opt out of the college football season. Injuries have taken place. Players have been cut. A lot of stuff going down. Let's jump into it. In case you missed it, Randy Gregory, remember him? Yeah, I'm pretty sure you do. He was reinstated by the NFL after being suspended for the entire 2019 season. Roger Goodell finally said, all right, enough of you being in timeout. I'm going to give you another opportunity. You blow this one, you may not be allowed back in the league again. We'll see how Randy Gregory responds to getting this opportunity, what the Cowboys decide to do with him. But Randy Gregory has been reinstated. When I look at the Cowboys roster and I look at all the defensive ends they have, man, they are loaded. If these guys stay healthy and stay off the weed, they could have something here, man. They got Aldon Smith. Now you got Randy Gregory. You got Everson Griffin. You got Tank Lawrence. I mean, that's a stacked room right there, if I may say so myself, coming off the edge for the Cowboys, if these guys are right. So, from all reports, Aldon Smith looks like he's in rare form back to his 49ers days. I'll believe it when I see it. But, man, that's a hell of a room if these guys can keep their heads screwed on straight. Randy Gregory reinstated. Now I think a guy like Martavis Bryant is saying, hey, what about me? We'll see if Roger has a change of heart and allows Martavis Bryant back in the league. But Randy Gregory has got his papers. He's allowed back in the league. We'll see what he does with this opportunity that may be his last in the league. In case you missed it, the Miami Dolphins cut quarterback Josh Rosen after trying to deal him right before the 53-man roster cut downs. They were looking to move him. They found no takers. They ended up cutting him. But I think this might have been the best thing that could have happened to Josh Rosen. Remember what he said after the draft when he was selected 10th overall by the Arizona Cardinals? Remember, they traded up to get him 10 overall. And he said the rest of the league was going to pay, and there were 9 mistakes taken ahead of him. Yeah, about that. Yeah. So this is his third team in like 3 years, I think. It's been a rough go for poor Josh Rosen. However, the best thing that could have happened to him may have just happened to him. He landed on the Buccaneers practice squad behind Tom Brady. He's going to get a chance to learn, man. And, you know, Jameis Winston is there. Tom Brady is there. No. Excuse me, not Jameis Winston. Jameis Winston is now in New Orleans. Tom Brady's there, and he's not going to be there forever, right? So you assume you soak up all the knowledge, all the work ethic, all of the things that it takes to have a successful career from Tom Brady over the next year or two. Can't imagine Brady being in Tampa longer than 2 years. And maybe it's your turn. And that's an offense that suits him. So to me, when I look at this situation with Josh Rosen, I'm thinking to myself, could he have landed in a better spot than Tampa? I don't know. I think this might be where he needs to be. Miami didn't seem like a great fit for him. Like, it kind of, the timeline was kind of off. They were going in a different direction than he was. But when I look at okay. I was like, wait a minute, what's going on? I'm looking and I'm dropping some frames here. We all good now. I apologize for that. Anyway, so I think this is a good spot for Josh Rosen, to be honest with you. You know, when I look at his situation and where he is, he doesn't have to play. He gets to learn. He gets to learn from arguably the greatest quarterback of all time. You got to feel like Josh Rosen might have actually landed somewhere where he might get some love. And Bruce Arians has been known to be the quarterback whisperer. It's an offense that kind of suits a guy that's not as mobile in a Josh Rosen. Maybe this is the best thing that could have happened to Josh Rosen. We will see. But it has not been a great start to this guy's NFL career. That is for certain. As we move on to the next topic, What is going on? I know we having some inclement weather out here, but I'm dropping frames like crazy. All right. Anyhow, in case you missed it, Bears name Mitchell Trubisky. Mama named him Mitchell. I'm gonna call him Mitchell Trubisky. Their starting quarterback for the season. And look, I'm a Mitchell Trubisky fan. Not because I think the man is great or anything like that. I just think he's gotten a raw deal in Chicago. Injuries really hurt him last year. And, I thought his head coach was on a power trip last season. So there were a lot of circumstances really holding Mitchell Trubisky back. Remember, this guy won the division just 2 years ago. So, when I look at Mitchell Trubisky and the situation with the Bears, I felt like this was the right move all along. I always felt like he was the guy that they should start, and you should have Nicholas Foles coming off the bench. That's always been the role that Foles has starred in. He's been best at coming off the pine. So for me, you go with Trubisky to see if he can get it done once and for all. If he can't, then you go to Nicholas Foles and you don't turn back. And you roll with Foles, and then if you need to draft a quarterback, you do. So to me, that's the way I would approach it. I think that's the way the Bears have approached it this offseason. And look, they probably had a competition. It wasn't the greatest competition. I think most quarterback competitions around the league were stunted by the lack of preseason games. In Miami, that wasn't a true competition. In Washington, it wasn't a true competition. In Chicago, I don't think it was a true competition. But that's nor here nor there. Mitchell Trubisky has done enough in practice that they feel comfortable starting him. I think it's the right move because even if he doesn't get it done, you have a fail-safe plan in Nicholas Foles. So if I'm the Bears, I know a lot of people think the Bears are making a mistake. I don't think they're making a mistake. I think they're doing the right thing. I would go Mitchell Trubisky. Mama named him Mitchell. I'm going to call him Mitchell, and I would see what he can bring to the team early in the season. If I don't like what I see early on, you go to Nicholas Foles. You don't turn back. So in case you missed it, Deshaun Watson gets a new fat-ass deal. 4 years, $160 million for the star Texans quarterback. Well-deserved. This is a guy that, it was funny, I was talking to my man, Sean Mack, on IG, and he was talking about how this was too much money for Deshaun Watson. I'm like, are you crazy? Are you insane? Deshaun Watson, to me, he's an elite quarterback. One of the few guys in the league. There are about a handful of guys, maybe 5 quarterbacks in the league that can lift the players around them and make their team better from the quarterback position. You've got Mahomes, obviously. You've got Russell Wilson. You've got Deshaun Watson. Aaron Rodgers, I think is still at that level. And then maybe Lamar Jackson. I don't know if Lamar Jackson elevates players around him as much as he's just dynamic himself. We'll see. I think those 4 for sure, though, are the guys that I look at, and I think these guys, they elevate the level of play of the players around them. And so, Houston hasn't had the most talent around Deshaun Watson, especially along the offensive line. They've struggled. And yet this guy, lacerated, kidney, spleen, whatever, can't get on the team flight, has to ride a bus to the game. And he's still suiting up and winning them ball games, getting kicked in the eye in the middle of a play, still throwing a touchdown pass. You name it, Deshaun Watson is doing it for this team. If not for Watson, Bill O'Brien would have been fired 3 years ago, and this team would be trash. So, that's, to me, the mark of a hell of a football player and a quarterback is you take that guy off the team and they would be irrelevant. It's the LeBron James effect in Cleveland. Take him off of the Cavaliers and they stink. You put him on the Cavaliers in the number 1 seed in the East. Same thing with, Deshaun Watson. You take him off of the Houston Texans, they're the bottom feeders of the AFC South. You put him on their team and they're winning the division almost every year. Same thing with Russell Wilson in Seattle. It's just, there are certain quarterbacks that just get it. And he's one of those guys. I couldn't think of a better quarterback deserving of a 4-year, $160 million extension. And so Russell Wilson, to me, he's the man, and he deserves everything that he's getting. And I'm happy for him, but at the same time, I'm sad because he's still got to deal with Bill O'Brien, and they took his best weapon away from him. I'm anxious to see what he's going to do this year, to be honest, but good for him. In case you missed it, Keenan Allen gets broken off with a new 4-year, $80 million extension in Los Angeles with the Chargers. And this is a guy that we talked about on this very podcast, wondering, is this guy underrated? Is he overrated? Remember, he was complaining about not being in somebody's top 10. I want to say it was Chris Sims' top 10 list, wide receiver list. And then, he was really pissed off when the NFL unveiled their top 100 and he wasn't in the top 10 of that list either. And so he started, spouting off about how he was better than this guy and better than that guy. And I was like, is this guy even top 7? He's a top 10 receiver. I can't deny that. And I think anybody that doesn't have him in the top 10, they're foolish. Is he a top 7 receiver, though, is what I was questioning. Well, the Chargers obviously think this guy is a top 5 receiver because they're paying him top 5 money. As a matter of fact, at the time of this deal being signed, he was the second highest paid wide receiver in the league after signing a 4-year, $80 million extension. So good for him. The guy deserves it. After having injuries mar his career early on, he's been healthy and he's been uber productive. And you won't find guys putting up the type of numbers that Keenan Allen is putting up out in Los Angeles. Now let's see what he does. He's had a Hall of Fame quarterback with him this entire time. Now he's going to be playing with Tyrod Taylor and potentially a rookie. Let's see if he can put up. See, this is the reason why I can't put him in the Nuke Hopkins discussion, because Nuke has been dealing with ineptitude at the quarterback position for years. And then he got Deshaun Watson. But, Larry Fitzgerald for years, just absolute trash in Arizona, putting up numbers for years. The elite of the elites put up big time numbers despite, this is why I love Allen Robinson. A lot of you knocked me and said I was tripping for Allen Robinson. Allen Robinson's had Mitchell Trubisky and Blake Bortles his entire career. Think about that for a second. Let it marinate, okay? Let that sink in. Yet this guy is consistently eclipsing 1,000 yards receiving. When you do it with that kind of ineptitude at the quarterback position, it means you're bulletproof. You just know how to get it done. We're going to find out if Keenan Allen is bulletproof or not, because now he's going to have a quarterback that doesn't want to chuck it down the field 40 yards. He's got a guy that wants to dink and dunk it. Is he still going to find a way to eclipse 1,000 yards and put up big numbers? We'll see this year, but make no mistake about it. He's one of the best in the league at the wide receiver position. He's arguably the best route runner in football. He deserves to get paid, and he did. 4 years, $80 million extension for Keenan Allen. In case you missed it, Tre'Davious White, corner, Buffalo Bills, gets broken off. 4-year, $70 million extension, 55 of it guaranteed. Good for that young man. Remember, he was thinking of opting out. Remember, it was a big decision, came down to the last moments of the opt-out period, and he decided to play. And I think the Bills might have gotten in his ear and said, look, Tre'Davious, we're over here thinking about giving you this massive extension, man. If you don't play this year, we might have to rethink our decision. And we'll push it back a year, because now this year doesn't count as an accrued season. So now we'll have more time to think about, maybe we don't need to pay you. So I think that had a little bit to do with him deciding to opt into the season and play. But make no mistake about it, this guy is a playmaker. He's always around the football. No matter what seems to take place, this guy always seems to be around the ball making plays. And I remember when he came out of LSU, I said, something's missing with this guy. I said, the one thing I love about him, even when you were back at LSU, very fundamentally sound and always around the football. But I said, something's missing with this guy. I don't know if he doesn't have the elite speed or if he's not a playmaker, but he's always around the ball. He's always around the ball. Something seems like it's good going to happen when he's on the field. But he got into the league and he tore shit up. He's forcing fumbles. He's recovering fumbles. He's picking off passes. He's shutting down receivers. He's been everything and then some for the Buffalo Bills. And they're cashing in. They're getting their guy and locking him up long term. Good for Tre'Davious White, man. He's been nothing but a baller since he set foot in the league. In case you missed it, future Hall of Fame running back Adrian Peterson was released by the Washington football team. Well, a massive surprise to everybody. looking at that situation. This guy had been taking much of the first team reps for the Washington football team during camp, but they wanted to go young, and they decided to go with the youngins, and they cut the wily veteran loose. He then latches on in some of his old stomping grounds back in the NFC North Division, not with the Vikings this time though, but rather the Detroit Lions, as he signs a 1-year, $1.1 million deal to play for the Lions this year. That should be a really good fit, I think, in Detroit. It'll be interesting though, because they've never been a power run team. And Peterson, at this point of his career, not a finesse back, never really was a finesse back, but not the guy that can hit it on the outside and take it distance. He's an in-between the tackles kind of runner at this point of his career. And that's not really who the Lions have been. Maybe they're trying to transform that a little bit, but it'll be interesting to see how they utilize him and if he gets enough touches. I think part of the reason the Washington football team moved on from him, we've seen Adrian Peterson on a roster not getting touches before it got ugly, whether it was in Arizona or most notably in New Orleans. It's not a pretty sight when this guy's only getting 7 touches in a ball game. He starts stalking coaches and balking at coordinators. I think they understood that either he had to be a huge part of the offense or he had to go. So they released him. He's now in Detroit. Let's see what happens with the Lions. In case you missed it, money, 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 money. More money being handed out as the Steelers make Cam Hayward the richest player over 30 years old on a new contract in NFL history. So in other words, because that was kind of muddled how I put that, he has received the largest contract for a player 30 years or older in the league. We know once you get on the wrong side of 30, a lot of times that money, not that big. You might get a new contract, but it's not going to be the kind you get when you're 25 or 26. He got some young man money, did Cam Hayward, but he's been as good as anyone on the interior. Hasn't really gotten the type of respect that some of the elites have gotten. Now, he's no Aaron Donald. No one else. No one is in this league. But I can tell you what, he's right on par with the Fletcher Coxes of the world. He's right on par with the Eric Armstead, and the Defoes, all the guys that we've talked about that have gotten these massive contracts this offseason. He's right there with them, and in some cases even better than them. He's just being hid in Pittsburgh. Not a lot of people understand what he's doing for the Steelers because they haven't been good the last couple of years with all their injuries, but this is a guy that has been playing outstanding football, and he's going to retire a Steeler after this deal. 5-year extension. He gets a 4-year extension. So now he's going to be in Pittsburgh until at least 2024. 4-year, $71 million extension. Again, at 31 years old, think about that for a second. He's 31 signing a 4-year, $71 million extension. That just doesn't happen in this league very often. But if there's one team that is loyal to their veterans, sometimes to a fault, as we saw back in the mid or early to mid-teen 20-teens when they got old overnight, is the Pittsburgh Steelers. They've been one to always take care of their own, and they're doing that here with Cam Hayward. Good for him. In case you missed it, Fitty, Ryan Fitzpatrick wins the quarterback job in Miami. Again, not really a true competition. And I talked about this on a podcast episode about 2 weeks ago or so, that I still contend that the Dolphins probably should just move forward with Tua Tagovailoa, but I understand why you don't start the rookie right out of the gates. You don't know what you have up front along the offensive line. It'd be nice for you to kind of find out and use Fitty as a test dummy. If the offensive line isn't very good, at least you know what you've gotten yourself into before you stick the rookie back there. And also, you don't want the rookie's head spinning. Let him learn a little bit on the sidelines if you can. You got a wily veteran here that can lead this football team. So no rush. No need to rush. You're not winning anything of note this year, more likely than not. So I understand the logic, but I talked about how the preseason was going to stunt the growth. The lack of preseason, rather, was going to stunt the growth in some of these competitions, some of these young quarterbacks. I mean, remember, I brought up the 2012 Russell Wilson comparison as a perfect situation here. You got the wily veteran and Fitty, Ryan Fitzpatrick, ready to go. The Seahawks had Matt Flynn, who they had extended a massive deal to in the offseason that year in 2012. They draft Russell Wilson in the 3rd round, not really knowing what they have. They think this guy's special, but they're not, ready to start him right away. He comes in, wows them day one in training camp, lights it up in the preseason, and they say, this is our guy. They move forward with him and never look back. A similar situation could have happened in Miami had there been preseason games, but with no preseason games, I think they feel more comfortable just going with the veteran and the guy with the experience. And so I don't blame them for that. Like I said, the quarterback competitions around the league, whether in Chicago, in Miami, or Washington, they were really all kind of one-sided because of the lack of preseason games. So no surprise here. Fitty named the starting quarterback of the Miami Dolphins. In case you missed it, a couple of high-profile future NFL prospects deciding to opt out of the season as Sewell Penie, and Georgia transfer. And we talked about him on the podcast. It's crazy that he decided to opt out because, I said he's a guy that definitely needs the season, but he decided to opt out anyway, which to me blows my mind. But nonetheless, the quarterback from Wake Forest, I can never remember his name, but he opted out as well. I don't know if that was a good decision by him or not. Now, I don't know about, underlying circumstances. I don't know about family members, things of that nature. I get it. Anybody that opts out, I totally understand. There's so much unknown about the coronavirus, and you just don't want to expose yourself to that. But, man, he's rolling the dice. You go from potentially being a first-round pick with a really good season for the Georgia Bulldogs this year to all of a sudden, he's no better than a second-round pick to me. And he could easily fall to the 3rd round. There's just not enough tape out there. And last year was his first real good season. You see a lot of good things, but I don't think it was enough for him to decide to opt out. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, when you look at Sewell Penie, that's a guy that's going to be a top 5 pick more likely than not, the left tackle from Oregon. There was really nothing to gain from him playing this season, but other than injury, and he's been injured in the past, so why risk it? You train, you prepare, they watch the tape, they see what you have in terms of movement skills. You go out and showcase your stuff at the combine next year, more likely than not. If there is one, I can't imagine them not having a combine. If nothing else, they'll have a combine. And he'll be more likely than not a top 5 pick, definitely top 10 for sure. So on one end, I get it. On the other end, a little questionable, but look, to each its own. And I wish them nothing but the best. As I told you, you're going to see a lot more of these players decide to opt out of the college football season. In case you missed it, a couple of running backs looking to get paid. We talked about all the money being dished out by NFL teams as we approach the season. A couple of running backs looking to get theirs. In Green Bay, Aaron Jones, coming off his first 1,000-yard rushing season of his career, looking to get paid, reportedly approaching a deal with the Packers. Remember, they just drafted A.J. Dillon out of Boston College, so thought that was an interesting draft pick, but they seem to really like the versatility that Aaron Jones provides for them, and so we'll see if he gets his money in Green Bay. And a guy that we talked about on this podcast a couple of episodes ago, in Alvin Kamara, looking to get paid in New Orleans. A deal seems imminent as the two sides seem to be vastly approaching new money for their all-world running back in Kamara, and I think that's long overdue as a second-round pick. Or was he a third-round pick? I remember telling anybody that would listen, this guy's a first-round back. And the Saints, I know they traded up to get him. I want to say it was late second. It might have been early third, whatever the case may be. This guy deserves to be paid, and I think it's about to happen here shortly. In case you missed it, Kareem Hunt, speaking of running backs getting paid, Kareem Hunt and the Browns agree on a 2-year, $13 million deal, $8 million of it guaranteed. Good for Kareem Hunt. It's a hell of a bounce back for a guy that was just almost out of the league 3 years ago. It's amazing the transformation that has happened with him. And I know the situation wasn't apples to apples in terms of a comparison to, say, a Ray Rice or some of the other guys that have been in trouble with that kind of situation. But Still, to be banished from the league, to be looked at as a pariah, to get an opportunity from the guy that drafted you in John Dorsey, who drafted you in Kansas City, to give you an opportunity in Cleveland, and for him to make the most of it. Good for Kareem Hunt. We all know the guy is a talented football player. We saw it in Kansas City, and they missed him in Kansas City, which is why they drafted Clyde Edwards-Helaire, because they've missed that kind of back. They're hoping that Clyde Edwards-Helaire could be that for them. But the Browns are really happy with what they've gotten out of Kareem Hunt, and they have rewarded him with a 2-year, $13 million extension, 8 of it guaranteed. In case you missed it, last episode we talked about Leonard Fournette and how he was going to be signed by someone. We didn't know who, but we knew he was going to be signed somewhere. Like, there's no way Leonard Fournette's going to go unsigned, right? Too talented, young back, going into the prime of his career. Someone's going to pick him up, and he's going to latch on somewhere. That somewhere happened to be Tampa Bay, where everyone seems to be going this offseason. I've got a little something to say about that here in a second. But you look at Fournette, and he said the following. This is the first time in my career I've had a real quarterback. And he's really talking going all the way back to college. He was at LSU, didn't have a quarterback there. He was, in Jacksonville, didn't have a quarterback there. And now he's in Tampa, and he's saying, this is the first time I've had a quarterback in my life, he said. I don't know about all of that, but I can say this. Good for him to land in Tampa. Everything's all hunky-dory right now in Tampa. I'm not buying the hype coming out of Tampa. All right, I'm just not. I told you guys this when Brady first signed, that I didn't think that they were going to be successful this year. Now, if Brady is able to play at a high level and do it again next year, I think that's when they have the light bulb go off, and they're a dangerous team. But everyone's just assuming that they're going to be dangerous this year. I don't know about that. We will see. In case you missed it, Nuke Hopkins gets new money on a 2-year, $54 million extension, which totals out his deal now to 5 years, $94 million to stay in Arizona. Remember, the biggest reason why the Texans felt like they had to trade him was because he still had 3 years left on his deal. And they were like, we're not giving you new money. We just paid you. And he looked around at the landscape of the league and he said, man, I'm better than a lot of these guys that are making more money than me. And so he was frustrated. And the Texans were like, look, I don't have anything to do with that. You signed a contract. We're not giving you new money. It got ugly. They traded him. He gets to Arizona. They love this guy. And they say, we're going to take care of you. And they have giving him a 2-year extension, adding that on to the 3 years he had remaining on his deal. Now his deal kind of reflects his standing in the league as the best, or one of the best. If he's not one by himself, he's 1A along with Michael Thomas right now. But he is being paid like one of the best in the league at 5 years, $94 million for Nuke Hopkins. In case you missed it, this was the lead story. Von Miller gone for the season with an ankle tendon injury. It looks like he did it on the last play of practice. It was termed a freak injury. It's really unfortunate because I love watching Von Miller play. He's one of the elite rushers in the league. And honestly, I was excited about Denver this year. You guys know how I feel about Drew Lock. I was a massive Drew Lock fan last year coming in to the draft. I thought that my team, the Washington football team, should have selected him in the first round. He didn't get selected by any team in the first round, which was somewhat of an indictment on him. Maybe the rest of the league, though, it might end up being an indictment on, and they might be wrong about this kid. I thought he had everything you were looking for. He had the swag. He's got the arm strength, enough mobility to be dangerous. He throws a beautiful deep ball. I just felt like he had the experience, essentially a 4-year starter at Missouri. I just thought there was everything that you were looking for. Helped turn a program around at Missouri. I just loved Drew Lock, and I thought that he got a raw deal not being selected in the first round last year. But he landed in a really good spot in Denver because they had all this talent out there, and you saw it at the end of last season. They went and got him more talent this year. I worry about the offensive line, but I said, man, with all that they've done offensively, And Von Miller and company on the defensive side, and remember, Vic Fangio's their head coach. This guy knows how to coach defense. They could be a sleeper team this year. Could the Denver Broncos? This is a debilitating blow to the Denver Broncos if, in fact, Von Miller's out for the season. He's seeking a second opinion on the injury to his ankle. More likely than not, though, he's going to require surgery. He's going to be done for the season. This is a death blow to that defense. They still got Bradley Chubb and company, but it's not the same. Von Miller is the engine that powers that Broncos defense. As he goes defensively, they go defensively. Without him, they're going to be missing their best player, arguably on their entire team, not just on the defense. That one sucks. It stings. And in a division where you've got to be able to get after the quarterback, whether you're talking about what the Chiefs are able to do or all of the talent the Raiders have compiled, you got to be able to get after the quarterback in that division. And losing a Von Miller, boy, does that sting if you're the Denver Broncos. But my well wishes to Von Miller, speedy recovery. He's been through a season-ending injury before. He's torn his ACL, so he knows what this process is like, but he's getting up there now. The last time he did this, he was a young pup. This is a little bit different, man. Hoping that Von is able to get back on the field sooner rather than later, but goddamn that injury reaper, boy. Boy, he knows how to creep. Watch him. I've been saying, protect your stuff. Creep. He's coming, all right? And that man has no mercy. Give zero uffs about your stuff. Protect it at all costs. In case you missed it, Monday Night Football dropping the All My Rowdy Friends intro this year because of the coronavirus, because nobody's going to be in the stadium. And so ESPN is trying to do their part to be a little bit health conscious. Okay, so they don't want a song promoting people getting together and all my rowdy friends are here for Monday night. They don't want everybody getting together. They want to promote social distancing. And so their way of doing their part is to get rid of the song. I don't know why you're doing this, but okay, I understand the whole concept of the song is for people to get together and cheer and all of that, but who gives a shit? It's a part of Monday Night Football, but they're being analytical here. And so no All My Rowdy Friends this year. Not that you really care. Probably don't even give a damn. I don't either. I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm all up in arms about it. Remember, they got rid of him before Hank Williams Jr. when he had some outlandish remarks about Barack Obama and Joe Biden back in like 2011, I believe it was like 2010, 2011, somewhere up in there on Fox News once before. So they had gotten rid of him before. So this isn't the first time. And then they brought him back like after, I think it was like 2016, 2017, somewhere in there. I remember it's been recent that he came back and started doing the Monday night song again. So maybe it's a 1-year hiatus and he'll be back, if fans are in the stands next year, or maybe they're going to move on and go in a different direction. We'll see. I just thought it was something interesting to throw your way. And then finally, the latest hot off the presses, in case you missed it. Jaylen Ramsey gets a massive, and I'm talking massive deal, 5 years, $105 million to remain in Los Angeles with the Rams, the highest contract ever given to a member of the secondary. First secondary member to eclipse $100 million in aggregate contract. Again, what did you think was going to happen? I told you guys when this was made, this trade was consummated, because a lot of Washington fans were like, man, we should go get Jaylen Ramsey. He'll be a free agent. I'm like, he's never going to see the light of day in Los Angeles. It's just not going to happen. Why? They did not trade 2 first-round picks, okay? They did not trade 2 first-round picks for Jaylen Ramsey to then walk away 2 years later. That's not how this works, okay? They are going to do everything in their power. They're going to shed, and that's why you've been seeing them move on from some guys. They're going to shed all of that dead cap space, whether it's Dante Fowler Jr. Allowing him to walk in that $14 million salary he had last year, trading away Brandon Cooks and the massive salary he had. They were going to create the space necessary to be able to sign Jaylen Ramsey because they traded 2 first-round picks for him. He wasn't going anywhere. Same thing with the Cowboys. When I said the Cowboys traded a first-round pick for Amari Cooper, do you really think they're going to allow Amari Cooper to leave in free agency? It's not happening. Teams don't trade first-round picks for players. Same thing with the Giants and Leonard Williams. Like, even though he wasn't all that good, like, at least with Amari Cooper and Jaylen Ramsey, you see the production on the field for their new teams, and you can kind of see why they would want to extend massive deals to these players because of how good they've been with their new teams and the impact that they've had. Not so much with Leonard Williams in New York for the Giants, but they're like, look, we gave up a first-round pick for this guy. We're not going to let him walk, okay? We want to see dividends here. That's what happens when teams trade for guys in season and give up big-time draft capital. You find a way to keep them on your football team, and we saw this one coming a mile away. $71 million guaranteed upon signing. Think about that. Could you imagine seeing $71 million hit your bank account at one time? Like, you go from your statement saying $772.17, and then the next time you look at your bank statement, it says $71 million and 712 cents. What? Is that crazy or what? Like, unbelievable that you can get that much money just for signing your name on a contract all at once, mind you. Whew. That is crazy. But Jaylen Ramsey, the best corner in football. I think he's the best cornerback in football. And so, yeah, he's a little, extra on the field, but he backs it up with his play. And so the Rams lock him up long term. They get their man. And so looks like Ramsey's going to be in Los Angeles with the Rams for quite some time. As we move on to our final segment of the show, garbage time. And so, before we get into garbage time, I'm going to make sure I get you guys out there to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already done so. Turn on the notification bell so you don't miss a thing here on the Louie T Network. Also, make sure that you like this video. If you're watching and you like the content, smash that like button for your man, Louie T. And I just want to let you know that we've got a lot of content coming this year. Every week, you're going to get this podcast 3 times a week. Monday, you're going to get the day after, all of the games. We're going to be here on Monday, breaking it all down, talking about everything that I saw throughout the course of the week. So you're going to get a podcast on Monday. You're going to get a podcast on Wednesday. That's going to be the viewer participation day on the podcast, essentially. Social media maneuvers. You get all your questions ready. Fire them at me. We'll chop it up on Wednesdays. That'll be the bulk of the show. And then Fridays, obviously, we got games coming up. We had a game the night before, so we'll break that down. We'll also start to look ahead to the slate on Sunday. Start looking at those, and I'll give you my money picks of the week on Friday. So 3 pods a week. Also, if you want more content on the Louie T Network, I got you covered. Don't forget, you got the overtime program. Every primetime game, immediately thereafter, your man Louie T will be breaking it all down live here on the Louie T Network. So join me for that. But also, if you still can't get enough of your man Louie T and the Louie T Network and you want more content, that's when you head over to Patreon and become a patron. I got a lot of content over there for you as well. We're going to have the rookie wall, okay, where you got the rookies in the league. They're climbing up the wall trying to see who's going to be the best rookie of 2020. I'm going to keep tabs on all of it, give you my rookie wall every single week for the 2020 season. So that's on Patreon exclusively. Also, Peak Performers is a new show that I'm debuting only on Patreon. It's going to be exclusive on Patreon. So go over to Patreon and sign up and become a member. Peak Performers. Every week, guys are going to stand out, be big-time performers. I'm going to tell you who those guys are. I'm going to give you a list. And when I get listy, I start listing things. I'm going to give you my list every single week of my peak performers from the week previous. So that's another show on Patreon as well. And if you're a Washington football fan, I'm also going to be breaking down Washington football film from the game prior. So that'll be every Tuesday. So stay tuned If you want more, Patreon is where you need to go. With that being said, let's get to garbage time. So, you know what I was thinking? After the Bucs signed Leonard Fournette, I said, man, you know what this Bucs team feels like? This feels real Philadelphia Eagle dream teamish to me. Does it feel that way to you? Maybe it doesn't. But it feels dream teamish to me. Remember that offseason the Eagles had back in like 2011? They signed Vince Young and company and everybody else. And Vince Young made the stupid comment of, man, this feels like the dream team. Like, Vince, first of all, you shut up, okay, because you're a non-factor and a non-contributor. Vic is the quarterback. You're just here. But anyway, they signed Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie that offseason, Nnamdi Asomugha, Vince Young, Ronnie Brown, Steve Smith. Not that Steve Smith, the other Steve Smith, the one from the Giants. Steve Smith. They signed Jason Babin that year. They signed Cullen Jenkins that year. Like, anybody that was everybody that was anybody was on that Eagles roster, it seemed like. And it was all this hoopla and fanfare. They went 10-6 the year prior, so everybody was thinking, well, this is the year that's going to, all these players are going to push them over the top. And they regressed, back to the mean. They were 8-8 that year. They missed the playoffs, and it was a big dud, was that dream team. Now, I'm not saying that's what's going to happen in Tampa Bay, but I'm getting those kind of vibes here. What about you? I mean, you get Brady. He then lures Gronk to the team. They then go out and sign just about any free agent that's out there. Shady McCoy, Leonard Fournette, you name it. They've seemed like they've signed that guy this offseason. And I get it. Everybody wants to play with Brady, but I just feel like there's a lot going on there, and I think this is a team that it's going to be interesting because you're going to get to see this season play out. Essentially, they're on TV almost every week. All right, they're the San Francisco 49ers of 2 years ago and the Cleveland Browns of last year. They're going to be on TV every week, whether you want them on TV or not. They're either going to be on primetime or they're going to be America's Game of the Week. They're going to be on TV quite a bit. Like week 1, I think they're going to be America's Game of the Week against the Saints at 4 o'clock. They're going to be, there's a stretch there in the middle of the season where I think they've got 3 straight primetime games, like a Sunday, a Monday, and another Sunday, or a Thursday, a Sunday, and a Monday. Like, it's ridiculous. You're going to get to see this season play out with them. And I know Brady still got it, but there's some aspects of his game that are lacking, and I think they're putting a lot on Brady's shoulders. And I don't know. We'll see if he can still carry a team. They got a lot of talent. Let's not act like this team isn't uber talented. Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, every kind of tight end you could imagine, from Cameron Brate, the O.J. Howard, the Gronk, all these running backs they got in the backfield. Don't forget about Ronald Jones. I mean, they've got all kinds of running backs for days. I mean, the fact that they've signed all of these running backs, what does that say about Ronald Jones? I don't know. Don't ask me. Anyway, I mean, they've got all this stuff out here that they've got in terms of talent. I think they've got a team that's ready to go. Will they put it all together? Will they gel and mesh? We'll see. This just feels, and I'm not saying that they're going to turn out like the Eagles in 2011, but it just feels like that kind of dream team vibe. I kind of get that sense that lots being put on their shoulders this year in terms of expectations. And when a team has never had that before, it's interesting to see how they deal with those kind of expectations. It's one thing to be the hunter. It's another thing to be the hunted. Even though they haven't won a damn thing, everyone's looking at the Buccaneers like, oh, okay, you're the NFL's prize possession. You're the prize pony. Okay, we're going to show you. And so they're going to get everybody's best game like they won the Super Bowl. Even though that title goes to the Chiefs as the reigning defending Super Bowl champs, everyone's going to look at the Buccaneers like they were the team in the Super Bowl last year, not the 49ers. And they're going to get everybody's best shot because they got Brady, and everyone around the league seems to be anointing them one of the best teams in the league. You look at all the Vegas odds and you look at the power rankings, the Buccaneers are among the best in the league already. I think the Saints have something to say about that. I think even in their division, the Falcons are like, oh, okay, so you just going to put them over us, huh? And I'm not saying the Falcons are really good, but I'll tell you what, the Falcons aren't that far away. If the defense is vastly improved, which I think if they're healthy, they will be. They get Keanu Neal back. They get their linebackers back. You add a guy like Dante Fowler Jr. to the mix. They added another defender in the draft and Davidson. And they've got a lot of stuff. And if it comes together defensively, we know what they can do offensively. Look out for the Falcons. I'm just saying, I just think that's a tough division to navigate. And to think that they're just going to step in there and the Saints are just going to move out of the way and the Falcons are just going to lay down. And, the Panthers are rebuilding, but they're no slouch. To just think that the Bucs are just going to show up and everyone's going to bow to Tom Brady and the Buccaneers, they got another damn thing coming. I think it's crazy, too, because I look at Brady and it's similar to LeBron coming out west. Like LeBron, I felt like it was funny because LeBron, when they clinched the number 1 seed, he decided he wanted to take a shot at all his haters. Oh, they said I couldn't do it out west. You didn't win anything yet. You just got the number 1 seed out west. Nobody cares about that. Go win a title out west. He's not even getting out of the West because the Clippers are going to beat them. But that's nor here nor there. I look at it like that. Like, Brady, you should have just kept your ass in the AFC where it was a lot easier. It's some dogs out here in the NFC. It's some beasts out here. The real boys play out here. All right. The reason why the AFC is able to win the Super Bowl is because it's such a damn fight to get out of the NFC playoffs. Meanwhile, you over there coasting in the AFC, like sipping Mai Tais and kicking back with your legs up on the coffee table, chilling, because the AFC road to the playoff is so much easier than the NFC. You got to fight to get to the Super Bowl in the NFC because you got to go against Aaron Rodgers. You got to go against Drew Brees, and so it's just crazy every year in the NFC. And you think you're just going to waltz into the NFC? Like Minnesota's just going to lay down. Like New Orleans is just going to lay down. Like Green Bay, San Francisco, Seattle. You look out for Arizona. You think all these teams just going to lay down and allow the Bucs to just scroll in to the NFC and say, hey, we here. Watch out. We going to the top. They got another damn thing coming. So I don't know about you, but that's how I feel about the Buccaneers. I don't know if they're going to stink. I don't think they're going to stink. Brady will not allow them to stink. But will they struggle? It wouldn't shock me if they struggled this year. I'm not saying. I'm just saying. And with that being said, I think it's time for me to glide to the side. I thank you guys for joining me on the 85th installment of the Louie T Network podcast. We're going to do this again a little bit later on today when I come back with the 86th installment. So make sure you come back and join me a little bit later on today when we break down every single division. I give you my records and my finishes for every team in the National Football League. That should be a lot of fun because I haven't really sat down and did that this year. This offseason has been a whirlwind for me and everybody else. And so I haven't, normally I do this and I have a segment and I have it set up where we get to talk about these divisions. I didn't have a chance to do that this year, but what I'll do is I'll open up the floor. We'll talk about these divisions, and we'll crown a division winner for each of the divisions in the league, all 8 of them. Remember, 7 teams from each conference this year are going to make the postseason, not 6. So that'll be interesting to see what happens with that final seed. And only 1 bye. Remember, in past years, 2 byes. Only 1 team is going to be good enough to qualify for a bye in the first round. So a lot of intrigue this year heading to the postseason. And we got to get there first. We got a long season ahead of us. Don't even know if we're going to get through 16 games. I got my fingers crossed that we get through 16 games. But, October and November are going to bring a slew of challenges with them. Once flu season gets here, a lot of things could change. So we will see. But just want to make sure I remind you guys, got a sale going on all merch, free shipping. NFL kickoff weekend offer is up and it's available from now through the first or the Sunday, 9/13 at 1 p.m. at the start of the kickoff on Sunday. So if you were on the fence about getting some merch, here's an opportunity to slide in and get it with no shipping costs to you. So check that out. The link is down below in the description of this and every single video. So check out the merch, LouieTeeNetwork. Also, you can get it on the print champs as well. So check that out. And don't forget about Patreon. A lot of content. And also the LTN exclusives, man. We got a lot of stuff going on. Get yourself into one of these survivor pools, man. Soul Survivor Pool. I still haven't won yet. I'm hungry. Like, this is the year I got to have it. 8 years I've been doing this and I still haven't won. Also, winners and losers. Do you feel like you know the NFL? Prove it. Season-long pool. You prove that you win and you get the bread. It's all yours. I was able to come out on top last year. Can you do it? All right. I'm looking to repeat just like the Kansas City Chiefs. And then also weekly pick'em pool. You don't want to sign up for the entire year. Too much of a commitment. That's fine. Go week by week. Weekly pick'em pool. I got to have something on the game every week. It's not the same when I'm just watching the games and there's no vested interest. I need to be rooting for a team so it fits my sheet. So get in the game, man. What are you waiting for? Don't sit on the sideline, man. Get in the game and get you some bread if you're good enough. If you ain't good enough, I get it. But if you're good enough, won't you come get some? You might get you some bread and also to the winners go the spoils. You know what I mean? So you get some bragging rights too, because I let you know when I win. I'm gonna let you know I won because that's what I do. If I lose, I'm going to tell you, yeah, I got. But that doesn't happen very often because I know how to get it done. Anyway, that's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. Remember, if it's not your man T, I guarantee you it's not the best NFL coverage. It could be. Thank you for joining me here on the Louie T Network podcast. More to come, so don't you veer off too far. We'll be back breaking down every division in the National Football League a little bit later on today. Until then, you guys, take it easy. Take care. And I'll see you later on. Have a good one.